All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. November 15th. We got a large 12-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. These games are part of the in-season tournament. But like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. All of my final plays, though, so what I'm actually rolling with myself will be on the site, GuyBostonSports.com. If you are interested in that, they're listed there for completely free. I'll put that down in the pinned comment. I mentioned player props. With a large NBA slate like this, we may not spend as much time on player props throughout this video, but if we do add any plays or anything like that on the site, I will give a little bit of a blurb as to why if we didn't talk about it in the video. So make sure to keep an eye over on the final plays. In terms of how we did last night, I'll drop a cha-ching. I don't know if it's as good as it looks. Our two cashes were as juicy as your morning OJ, but we had the Mavs first half -2.5. They won by 3. That cashed for -160. So again, super juiced. And then our same game parlay did technically cash. It was a -133 play over on FD, but Kyrie sits out, so it actually moves the odds to -150. So we were 2-0 last night. Again, we'll take the cha-ching. There was no losses, but juicy as all heck. But one good news here, and I wouldn't say one good news. That is good news that we cashed both of those, but like 2 half-unit plays for mega juice, nothing to write home about, right? But one great thing. We're on a little bit of another ride of the day streak here from Jacob. He had Klay Thompson over 15.5 points. Klay Thompson finished with 17. We can drop a cha-ching there. That is definitely owed. Shout out to Jacob. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag or ROTD in the comments, and I'll be jumping on board with one person's play. You get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. I also posted on my X at FGuyBoston. It'll pop up right here throughout the show, as well as on GuyBostonSports.com. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays, like we're riding with Jacob again today. If you lose, we do got to talk about it. You still get the shout out, but we might have to drop the womp womp on the soundboard. So go ahead and get those hashtag ride of the days in there. It's got to be inside -150 to be considered. But what do you say we go ahead and dive into this large slate? Very excited. This is going to be a very, very good Friday, guys. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys as always. The new channel, like I said yesterday and in the last couple of videos, I feel like you guys really picked me up when I was down. So I do want to say thank you so damn much for that. But let's go ahead and dive into game number 1 here. We have Orlando taking on Philly. Orlando still's maintaining an above 500 record with all the injuries they have. Obviously, been Caro, Wendell Carter Jr. Philadelphia is just seeming like they're in disarray here, 2-9. What I will say, though, Embiid's going to get more and more comfortable. Paul George is obviously there. Andre Drummond's game time decision and still without Maxey, so those are huge, big, hits there. But to me, this might be a spot for a sneaky Philly play at +2. That total's at 210. I don't know if I love that, but one thing I will say is Philadelphia plays a hell of a lot slower than Orlando, so the fact that total's down there tells me that there is a chance that Philly kind of controls the pace of this game. And like I mentioned, Ben Caro, Wendell Carter Jr. not playing for Orlando, so Embiid may be able to play fairly well down in the paint, and Orlando has won 4 straight games. At some point, we think that they might drop one, right? So I'm gonna lean Philly. I know it might be crazy, but give me Philly plus the 2. Total sitting at 210. It's a little bit too low for me to like an under, so I think I, by default, might lean towards an over. But overall, maybe a peek at one of the team totals, maybe like an Orlando team total under or something like that. They've been playing really well against the Pacers in what could have been a fast-paced game. It wasn't. They won 94-90 in their last game. So, I don't think that they're going to be primed and ready to go out there and drop 110 or something like that. So if we can get a good line, maybe that's a look. No major player props in this one. I will say I'm eyeing, to some degree, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope over 1.5 3-pointers made. Reason being, Philadelphia on the season allowing the 4th most threes to the shooting guard position. They're also not all that tremendous at stopping the corner 3. Pope shoots a decent amount of corner 3s, so that is where I'm eyeing player prop wise, but I'm not like fully sold on it. So if you do see it in the final plays, it's most likely because we dug a little bit further and found some, because as of right now, it is just a slight lean. Like my favorite thing we talked about here, and it's crazy to say out loud, is probably Philadelphia +2, which I admit is kind of crazy based on how they've been playing. But at some point, they just get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, and they're going up against an Orlando team that's due for some regression. Next up, we have Indiana taking on Miami. Indiana 4-point favorites in this one. That total is at 229.5. I think I've seen it move down to 229 and 228 and then move back up. So that total is kind of all over the place, but in the same-ish ballpark that it is there, right? Indiana's coming off of a loss. We just talked about it, to Orlando, 94-90. Miami coming off of a loss. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Now, some of the competition they've played has been really good, right? They've played Sacramento, Phoenix, Denver, Minnesota. But then the big loss was Detroit, and they only lose by 2. I see that, but they were losing that like entire game. So they came back and I think pushed that game to overtime, right? Don't quote me on that. But to me, that was a really, really bad look there. In terms of that was without Jimmy Butler, but he's still out here. Nembhard and Nesmith also look like they're going to be out for Indiana. I think this is going to be an Indiana spot. Neither one of these teams has fired on all cylinders yet whatsoever. But if we look at this pace, kind of how it sent me in a direction with the Orlando and Philly game, that is an awfully high number for Miami team to be in this game. Now, I get it. Detroit and them just scored like 250 combined, but Indiana is the faster paced team here in this spot. They're the more efficient offense as well. So I don't mind the idea of them winning this game by 5 if they get out there and start to run, especially with no Jimmy Butler. Now, what I will also say, if you are betting the Heat, and I don't have the numbers to support this, but I do believe it, that when you kind of give the reins to Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier, like I do think that the Heat can play a little bit faster. So them being a bottom 5-ish team in terms of pace this season, that's a lot of the times, including Jimmy Butler, who will play a little bit slower than those guys. But overall, I still think this is an Indiana spot. One thing is that the Heat so far this year have been a decent team from 3. Like, they're shooting a lot more threes than they were a year ago. Top 10 team in terms of scoring from 3. Indiana, 7th best in terms of guarding that perimeter, not allowing opponents to score. So I don't see where the Heat keep up in this one. Give me the Pacers. Would also consider a Pacers team total over. There's something about this Miami defense that's just Jekyll and Hyde. And I think when you get teams that, can score multiple ways, I think that the Indiana Pacers may be able to score in the paint today as well. When they can score multiple ways, I do think that the Heat end up struggling against that. So not really the total for both teams here at 229.5. I think I'm going to consider an Indiana team total over if I do play that total. In terms of a player prop, Pascal Siakam over 19.5 points, definitely something that I'm considering here today. I already mentioned that Miami, likes to shoot from the 3, but what I will also say is Indiana on the other side, they like to shoot from the restricted area. They haven't been all that great at scoring in the paint this year, but this Miami team hasn't been all that great at stopping them. 22nd in terms of stopping opponents at the rim, which in the paint. So I do think this is a decent spot, I guess we could say, in terms of what we're looking at there. So Pascal Siakam, if you get into the paint and stuff like that, in the paint, 47.5% field goal percentage against. So I think that could be a good spot for Pascal Siakam to go out there and get 20. He's been up and down, but so matchup dependent. I think this could be a decent matchup for him. Speaking of matchups, who cares about the matchup in this one? Victor Wembanyama, Underdog, has his points line at 0.5. He needs 1 foul shot to catch that. I think he just might. Guys, go ahead and check out the link down below. I'll also put it on the Guy Boston Sports site, but it'll be in the description, the pinned comment, to go ahead and check out Underdog. You get this Victor Wembanyama square. They have tons and tons and tons of promos going on the app right now as well. And you're going to get up to $1,000 in deposit bonus when signing up today. So a lot of reasons to go check out Underdog. If you have not yet, it's super, super fun. You pretty much just look at player props. You go based on their projection more or less on the set stat. You put them into an entry. The more you win, the more you get paid out. You can win up to, I believe it's 1,000 times your money over on Underdog. So go ahead and check that out, guys. That link will be down below. You can also sign up using code GuyBoston if that is easiest, but you get the description, you got the code, you get the pinned comment. We'll also put it on the Guy Boston Sports site with the pinned comment. Your convenience spot, wherever you like to find the links, go ahead and check it out and check out Underdog. You will not regret it. This app is awesome with all the deals they got going on lately. All right, Toronto taking on Detroit. I do actually have a play that could be a final play in this one. It's going to be the under. This is a Toronto team that if you look at based on the year, they've been playing fast, but they've been playing pretty darn slow for the recent few games that they've had here. Listen to their last 3 games: 103, 105, 103, 123, 99 to 85 against Milwaukee. Detroit has played 2 fast games in a row, but I still don't believe that this is a quick offense or an efficient offense or anything like that. So I think that they are due to kind of come back down to earth here as well. And one thing I'll say, where Toronto likes to shoot from is in the paint. They shoot more restricted area field goal attempts in the last 10 games than any other team in the entire league. Well, you look at where Detroit actually stacks up defensively when they're on the road this year: 7th best, middle of the pack, 15th, when just, overall, like, I don't think this is a bad spot for Detroit to give them some trouble. Neither one of these teams is all that impressive from deep, and they don't shoot it all that much, right? So, yeah, I don't mind the under in this spot. There's been a lot of injuries going on, so we can rehash them here. Thompson, Klintman, Hardaway, Fontecchio, and Ivy all on the injury report. Ivy, Fontecchio, and Hardaway all game time decisions. Klintman and Thompson out for Detroit, which nothing new there, right? On the Toronto side of things, still nothing really new. Quickly out. I think he's out for a couple more weeks. Scotty Barnes, Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and then Walter also out. So tons of injuries here. But if Jaden Ivey, he's the only game time decision that I'm really thinking about on that Detroit. If he doesn't play, I think that this is even more of a reason to consider an under. So I'll lean in that direction. In terms of a spread pick, I mean, go ahead, close your eyes and pick one. I'm probably going to look at Detroit here in this spot, but I don't sit here and say that there's any real advantage or anything like that. Maybe other than the fact that Detroit looks like they might be playing better basketball after a win against Miami. They're 7-5 against the spread, but hey, you look at Toronto, 8-4, right? So it's like, I don't know, because both these teams coming off of losses to Milwaukee, right? And one was a high-scoring game, but Milwaukee still, beat them by 7 or 8 points. One was a low-scoring game, Milwaukee still beat them by double digits. So it's like, you can't really sit here and tell me that there's a good reason for either team. So I'll lean Detroit because I do think that they may have a little bit more fire if Jaden Ivey plays, but I'm liking that under. And then no major player props as of right now in this one. Atlanta and Washington. 240.5 total. The spread is at 9. This just seems, and you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, this just seems like one of those games out of all these 12 games, right? Nothing seems right. Why do we need to head into this game and actually roll with our own bread and risk it? You know what I mean? So this is probably one of my least, if not my least favorite game on today's slate. I don't think Atlanta deserves to be 9-point favorites over anybody. But I also don't think that, Washington is good enough to get those 9. This is going to be a high-paced game because neither one of these teams play all that great at defense. You have the second worst defensive efficiency team in Washington going up against, I believe it's the 5th worst or 6th worst team in Atlanta. So, yeah, there's probably going to be points scored, but, are we forgetting that neither one of these teams are that great offensively either? So, this is just a weird one to me. Ultimately, I will end up passing. I don't think I'll have any plays on this one, but I guess I would look at, Atlanta minus the points and the under 240.5. But that's really all I have on that one, and I do apologize. But this just, out of all the games we have, I don't know why we need to force something that we don't like, right? If you guys like something in this one, that's amazing. Good for you. You got better eyes than me. Maybe I need some glasses because I could not see squat in this one that I liked. All right, the New York Knicks taking on the Brooklyn Nets here. This is a Brooklyn team that I think actually has some juice behind them. I mean, they're 5-7 on the year. The Knicks are only 5-6, right? But Brooklyn's 9-3 against the spread. They keep games close. And I would say, other than the game against Boston most recently, but I would say they keep them close, especially when they're getting these spreads like 9.5. Do you know what I mean? This is a big number. They've covered 8 of their last 10 games if this were to be the number in all of their games, whereas the Knicks have only covered 4 of their last 10 if this were to be the number that they lay. So, yeah, I'm gonna lean Brooklyn. I think the Knicks are going to get better and better. I think I've said that in the last couple of videos that they get a lot of hate right now, and rightfully so. They're not meshing, they're not gelling, but I think the Knicks do get better and better as the season goes on. No kidding. But 9.5 points right now seems like it's a little bit too much. Now, I will probably, I guess, throw caution out there that if you like Brooklyn, Dorian Finney-Smith is a game-time decision. Probable, though. I don't know how much you want to say that matters, but Nick Claxton game-time decision. I think that, if he doesn't play, could be a big deal. But on the other side, you have Brunson game-time decision, Karl-Anthony Towns game-time decision, Deuce McBride game-time decision. So it's Cameron Payne, I think, also game-time decision. So it's yeah, there's a lot of injuries in this one. So whatever those numbers are telling you, if someone knows that we don't know, right? Or they know something we don't know type of thing, that tells me that maybe Claxton's out and all those guys that I mentioned for the Knicks, most of them play. So that would obviously change my mind. But as of right now, all those guys being game time decisions, hell, give me the keep it within double digits or single digits for Brooklyn. In terms of the total here, that is a really low number, but you have literally potentially 2 of the slowest paced teams here in the league. I do think that they're a little bit better offensively than their points per game and stuff would indicate, but it's still, I don't think it's enough to make me confident in an over, so I will take a slight peek at the under. And in terms of a player prop, I like Dennis Schroeder over 14.5 points. 8 of 12 games so far this season. He's hit it in 4 of 6 in terms of his away games. Last away game he didn't hit in, he had 14 points. What he shot from the field there was 44%. He's been a little bit better than that so far this season in terms of scoring. He's shooting almost 50% from the field. So one more bucket, field goal percentage back to normal, he would have cashed that one, you know what I mean? So I like him to score 15 today. Guys, if you do want to support what we got going on here and pick up some great merch at the same time, head over to fademe.store. We got tons of new products. It's a good day for a parlay. We got the make money on a Sunday. Tons of good and great quality products over on the store. I'll put that link down below. You can also find it over on GuyBossSports.com. We'll link it there as well. But fademe.store, go pick up some great merch. It definitely helps us out. And like I said, this is not just crappy garments that we slap a logo on. This is legitimate product and legitimate apparel. Really, really good quality that we test and sample. So go ahead and check it out if you are in the market for some nice sports betting merch, guys. Fademe.store. All right, Cleveland taking on Chicago. Cleveland remains undefeated. They did just play Chicago recently in Chicago, and they won 119-113, but that was actually an ATS cover for Chicago. This is a huge number at 11, obviously. We look at the injury report, and it actually looks like it's negative for Cleveland. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, both listed as probable, but they are listed on the injury report. Then you have Sam Merrill and Max Strus, as well as Armani Bates. But obviously those guys, one, the impact is minimal, and two, they've been out. So really Evan Mobley and Allen being the two big keys here. I do think that this is too big of a number to lay. Am I all that confident in Chicago? I don't think I would get there, but we did just see them compete with this Cleveland team a few days back. So I'll take the points there, plus the 11. That total at 237.5 seems super, super high. But at the same time, you look at this and it's like, well, Chicago's still playing incredibly fast basketball, right? Their defense hasn't been all that tremendous, seventh worst in terms of defensive efficiency, and maybe Cleveland does get things going and kind of pulls away in this one. So I'm going to lean slightly towards the over. It might be a little crazy because it is so high, but especially if Allen doesn't play, I think that Vucevic could go off, which I like his points as well as his three-pointers over for player props today. I also don't mind Evan Mobley in terms of his points. I also don't mind Jared Allen in terms of his points. So both of those guys have killed us on the hook multiple times this year. So Evan Mobley and Jared Allen points I do like, as well as Vucevic points, as well as Vucevic threes. But we've gotten kicked in the you-know-what by those. Honestly, Vucevic has respected the coin this year. But in terms of Mobley and Allen, I really don't know if they have. Mobley, we've cashed multiple times, but, at the same time, both of these guys have kind of screwed us multiple times. So we'll see if we get anywhere with those guys, but that is where I would look in terms of player props. But this is a tough one. This is probably a game in which I would only roll with some of these player props if I do, because that's a huge number. And then in terms of the laying it as the Cleveland, but then that total's massive as well. I don't know how much value there is in either the side or total in this one. All right, Spurs taking on the Lakers. Remember, Underdog has that 0.5 total points line for Wemby. Go check out Underdog. This is a really interesting one here because I think at quick glance, it's like, oh, Lakers all day long. But I'm honestly starting, the more and more I look into it, see this sort of even out, and then I'm starting to like the over. So I think that's going to be my main one, the over. I don't think either team is going to have a full sort of answer for what each team likes to do offensively, but I'll tell you why. I guess I'll lean towards the Spurs, okay? Because I do think that this is a little nugget that is very important. The Spurs should be able to get anything they want inside offensively, right? And that's going to be a huge miss of the Lakers in terms of defending them. So, okay, fine. There's that. But where the Lakers score from has been in the paint so far this year. The Spurs haven't really done that, but I'm saying that's where defensive weaknesses for the Lakers. But the Lakers, fifth in terms of restricted area field goal attempts within the last 10 games in the league per game, right? And they're scoring the sixth most on the season in terms of in the paint. But the Spurs have been a very good team at stopping opponents from scoring in the paint. So unless the Lakers can kind of tune in and lock in to hitting some three balls, I think that the Spurs keep this one close in a back and forth game. So again, I like the over as well as San Antonio. No player props other than Wemby 0.5 points that I'm liking as of right now, but I do think that there is some opportunity in this game. So if we find anything, we'll add it over on GuyBossSports.com. Make sure to keep an eye on that. But this is also another one where I can be transparent, right? I did tell you. I liked the Lakers. It seemed like an obvious Lakers spot, the way they've been playing and whatnot, but I just couldn't really get there. So if you do like the Lakers, don't let this big dumb mouth kind of talk you off of it, because there are some spots where the Lakers look like they have somewhat of an advantage, right? Like, they are the team that does like to score in the paint, even what I said, right? And I use that as a point for Spurs. The Spurs do not like to score in the paint, so are they really going to try and score in the paint against a weak Lakers defense? I'm not exactly sure. So there's plenty of reasons to get to the Lakers here. The more and more I looked into it, the more and more it looked like Spurs lensed glasses. You know what I mean? All right, guys, if you've made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 20. I made it 20 minutes in. Appreciate that so much. I know I get some comments being like, oh, we like when you do the rants, or some people like, get to the picks and all that. So I'm not going to go on a rant here, but I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, and I will reiterate it because I don't want to seem like it's just a phony thing to say, like, after saying like and subscribe, appreciate you guys so much, right? It is so real and genuine that I appreciate how you guys picked up the channel when our 100,000 subscribed to channel kind of is in limbo right now still, but you guys picked me up when I was down, and now we're over 11,000 subscribers. Like that really means a lot. Do I wish that this situation happened? No, I'd still rather just be rocking on that channel and pouring gas on fire. But in this sense, that this is as good as this situation could be, and that's because of you guys. So appreciate the heck out of you guys. But yeah, comment 20 if you made it this far in the video. Let's go ahead and get into the picks. I said I wouldn't get all sappy. Let's try and keep the eyes clear, not teary-eyed, all right? OKC taking on Phoenix. Should be a good game here. We do have some injuries to note, though. Looks like Kevin Durant's still out. Now Bradley Beal actually ruled out. Nurkic game time decision. Garrett Allen game time decision. So that's kind of tough. On the other side of things, Alex Caruso is out. And then Holmgren, as we know, out. So a lot of guys that matter to both these teams are sitting out. This is a spot in which I think that if Phoenix was healthy, and obviously this line probably wouldn't be where it is, but I'd be eyeing Phoenix. But Oklahoma City, even with them, the injuries they've had, they did look okay against the Clippers, right? Coming back, winning that one. The Pelicans, they blew out like they should. Like, as long as Shea is playing, and obviously cast and crew, like you have Dort and Williams that is playing, right? Like, but as long as Shea is playing, I do think that they can be one of those great teams, and they're still very good defensively. So I'm going to lean towards OKC in this spot, minus the 7.5. That total at 228 is interesting because what we've seen out of both of these teams lately is a little bit of pace, right? OKC, sixth fastest team in terms of the last 10 games overall this season. And then Phoenix, their last few games here, the defense has not looked very good. Their offense has looked okay, but they're still trending to and over. They've hit 3 straight overs, and all 3 of those, I believe, at least 2 of the 3, I know for sure, were over this line, right? So to me, if OKC gets going, I think Phoenix will try and press and keep up with them. And I don't believe that they'll have the hardest time scoring the ball. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards the over 228 in this spot as well. No major player props that I like. One thing that I would look at, and again, it's kind of nitpicky, but sometimes we hit these ones, right? You look at Phoenix, you look at, Phoenix. Sorry, you look at OKC. I have this all mixed up. Actually, all right. Let me rephrase this. You look at the defense of Phoenix, right? They struggle at covering corner threes. That's better said. So I don't mind the idea of looking at someone like Carson Wallace, who's going to get even more minutes today to hit his threes number right now. His 3 line is, I don't even know if we have it out yet, right? Let's see. Yeah, it is out. Okay, let's see if we can find exactly what his odds are for threes, because I do think that could be, I don't even have a line for his threes yet, but that could be a spot that I look at because I think he's going to get more minutes, and he shoots from where Phoenix struggles in a sense. So keep an eye on that one. We might roll with it, but we're still waiting on a line. We don't have that just yet. All right, Houston taking on the Clippers here. We just saw this matchup a couple days ago in terms of how that was the outcome. Houston won 111-103. I've been a strong believer, whether it's in-season tournament or not, I've been a strong believer so far this year. And when you have these, each team plays twice or they play each other twice in 3 days or back-to-back, I do like the idea of splitting. And the fact that we're getting points on the Clippers side of things makes me lean towards them a little bit here. I'd also look at potentially a Clippers team total over if we can get a good look at that. I think that they'll be able to do a little bit better than they did in the last game. In terms of their field goal percentage, they only shot 40% from the field, 30% from 3, 8% from the line. So I think they could do a tad bit better. Like, they had a terrible second half of that game. I think they scored like 40. They scored less than, I think it was 45, 46 points in that game in the second half, which is not all that great if you guys don't know, right? In terms of how they've been doing so far this year, though, they've been averaging 30 points in the third quarter, 27 points in the third quarter. So they were due and on pace for like 10 more points than they actually got in the third and fourth quarter. So I like the Clippers here. plus the point. I also don't mind them on the money line for what's their money line odds right now? Plus 160, like that's definitely something that I'm considering, I guess, as well. And then in terms of the total, like I said, I like Clippers team total over. I don't know how much I like the over overall because these are two slow-paced teams. Like, no one is denying that, right? So it is kind of tough to look at this one and say, well, yeah, like the over is going to smack if I like the Clippers. No, Houston could go out there and score sub 100 or something like that. Like, this is still a good defensive team in the Clippers as well, even though I'm talking about their offense. So I think I would just try and minimize all these factors and just look at the idea of, maybe the Clippers team total over. Now, from a player prop perspective, I do have one that I like here. I'm going to be taking a peek at Ivica, which shout out to Brett in the comments. You guys knew I could never pronounce, even though I've heard it a million times on TV, could never pronounce Zubac's first name. And he said it rhymes with pizza. And I was like, well, now you're speaking my language. Ivica Zubac here, under 14.5 or 15.5 points, depending on the odds you like there. He's hit the under here in 3 straight games against Houston. He's hit the under in 3 of his last 4 games. And this is a Houston team that is decent defensively, right? Number 1 team in terms of points in the paint allowed this year. And obviously, if you know anything about Zubac, he's going to try and score in the paint. He's not doing much else. So I like his under in points here. He had 8, like I said, last time they played just a couple days ago. If you're a contrarian, which a lot of times I am, you might think he goes off and plays better, but I really don't think that this is a Houston defense around the rim that you can tip your nose at, even though people say like, oh, well, Sengun isn't the best defensively. Jabari, like, whatever you want to make the argument, and if Steven Adams plays, even better, right? If whatever you want to make the argument, it's like, well, we're not going up against Anthony Davis or Embiid. Like, I know Zubac is good, but he ain't one of those guys, so I still like him to maybe be phased out of this type of game. All right, I'm not going to have too much on this one for now because I think the line is telling us something. I could be wrong, but 4.5, you're probably like, what the heck? Well, Jokic is on the injury report, and he's listed as questionable, not probable or anything like that. So you already have an absolutely banged-up New Orleans team. I tell you guys all the time, I don't want my eyes to get sore, so I'm not reading that dictionary of an injury report, but their entire starting lineup, other than Brandon Ingram, is out. But the fact that this is only at 4.5 tells me that Jokic, there's a chance he doesn't play. So I really don't want to go and dive too much into this one here. If Jokic plays, then hell yeah, I'm looking at a Denver spot here. I don't see why, the Pelicans stink. And on top of stinking, they're in such disarray. And this Pelicans team, and this Nuggets team is cruising right now. They've won, they're now 7-3. They're kind of clicking back to what they should be, right? They've won, I think it's like 4 or 5 in a row. And they've covered, and they're like 3-1-1 in the last 5 games. So it's like, this line doesn't make sense, but it tells me that Jokic may not be playing. Total-wise, that's obviously going to depend on it too. If Jokic doesn't play, I don't mind an over. I think that they can speed things up and just kind of have one of those messy, high-scoring games. If he does play, I'd probably stick away from it. No major player props either because of this news, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about that line or reading too much into it, but them only being 4.5-point favorites tells me that there's a strong chance Jokic is not suiting up. But I could definitely be wrong, and this could be the biggest no-brainer play of all time, but who knows? This is tough because I think this is actually a really good matchup to potentially sneak in a Memphis play at 7.5. But their injuries are still just absolutely brutal, you know what I mean? So I don't think that I can get there, but I'm certainly, and maybe I'll sound the psycho alarm here, psycho alert alarm. I'm certainly not even looking at Golden State. I think that's too many points in this type of matchup, in a spot in which I do think it might favor Memphis if this game starts to be a run and gun type game. And look at that, it's a 236 total. So yeah, I'm probably sticking away from this one. I do think that Memphis can keep this one close, but without Ja, without Bane, and now Brandon Clark's on the injury report. Like, I really don't think that I can get there, but I'll tell you what, and actually Bane I think could play, so that'd be great. I still want Ja in there, so I don't think I get there, but if Bane plays, then maybe I do consider it, but I don't think that, I think I would really need Ja to want to bet against Golden State with Memphis. But overall, like, yeah, I'm telling you, I think this could be a good spot for Memphis, but to me, they needed to be a little bit more healthy for me to be confident in it. I think that the Warriors, there's still a chance that they can just go Warrior them and absolutely, trump them. So, yeah, I'll stick away from this game, but just know if it helps you at all or puts a seed in your mind or something, I really like no Golden State. I don't like this matchup, and I was thinking Memphis, but those injuries stink. Total at 236. maybe a potential spot here for an over, because I do think that you have two top 10 pace teams in the league, two of the most efficient offenses in the league. You do have two very good defenses in terms of efficiency, but that total speaks for itself, right? Like, I don't care how good the defenses are. There's clearly a thought that offense kind of supersedes that. So I'll lean over here as well. No major player props that I'm eyeing. All right, Sacramento taking on Minnesota. So no Malik Monk still, and now we're looking at DeMar DeRozan as a doubtful person in this game in terms of him getting a go, and yet Minnesota is only -2 after losing 3 straight games, Miami and then Portland twice. So I know a lot of people put them on their DNB lists. I'm still thinking this Minnesota team could pull themselves out of this one here. In terms of how they played them last time, they did win this game by exactly 2. But again, that was with a healthier Sacramento team, right? They had Fox, DeRozan, they had Monk. Monk actually scored I think it was nearly 20 points in that game. DeRozan had a really good game. So I don't know if I'm, missing something or just trying not to overthink this. Minnesota minus the points here in this one. I believe that they are the better defensive team as well as the better offensive team in a sense. Now, Sacramento has actually been a pretty damn efficient offensive team as of late, but still, with no DeRozan, things could switch up on them a little bit, and I believe that there could be a lot of threes. Like, I think that Sacramento's going to compete in this game. That's why that line is there, but I think Minnesota can pull away with some perimeter jumpers and whatnot. So give me Minnesota. In terms of the total, I lean towards the over. I know I said that these are two good defensive teams, but much like what I just talked about with Golden State and Memphis, I do think that there's some offense here that is just not being considered. Like, I'd rather the offenses than defenses for both these teams. So, yeah, I'm going to lean in that direction of the over. And then, again, this is another spot where we'll consider some player props, but nothing on sort of the firing iron right now. I don't even know if that's a saying. But, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully, you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I think we did pretty good keeping this under 40 minutes for a 12-game slate. So, hey, pat on the back over here. All the guppies out there that tell me to shut up and give my picks and just, stop rambling. Hey, I think I did a decent job today. 12 games. Pretty efficient. Appreciate the heck out of you guys. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you guys in the next one. I am traveling this weekend. I'll be away, so the videos might look a little bit different the next couple days. We might just do like the hybrid videos where we give our 3 to 5 favorite plays and not a full game breakdown, but it is what it is. We haven't traveled in a while. We have no more weddings this year, so hey, you can't get upset, right? But we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.